for October 19th, 2018. And construction on the house is not actually finished. It's been on hold because after the floors were done and after all the countertops were done and the cabinets were done and the walls were taken out, after all that, we needed to paint. We weren't happy with the white that we had on the walls. It was apparently too purple for some people's tastes. And that's what this has become, is my whole world is paint fumes now, which are actually for me a little bit easier to handle than the floor resin fumes. For one thing, I know it can't possibly be as toxic because they didn't have us leave for a period of time while they were painting. And what they were doing today technically was priming. So my hope is that after the primer dries completely, this won't be nearly so bad. It is putting a little bit of a damper on my spirit for playing Soul Calibur, but the main thing that's actually been a problem in that regard is that I didn't get nearly enough sleep last night because I was up playing with it. I was up playing with the character creator and making all sorts of goofy things. I made a really silly character for my Discord friends, which was Big Kitty Moth Girlfriend, which was a character with moth wings, cat ears, and a goth outfit. If you get that joke, good for you. If you don't get that joke, I'm not going to explain it because I don't want to have to change the rating on this video. But yeah, I haven't actually played any Soul Calibur today because I've been watching the dev stream for Warframe, because today was the first reveal of the gameplay and the finished 3D model of Garuda. And about a month into playing Warframe, which was 6 months ago now, I posited that what the game really needed was a vampire-style Warframe. Looking at all the different ones that they had previously, they have themes around mythological creatures or even elemental concepts, and sometimes specific personalities, especially out of Asian mythology. So there's Niza, Wukong, which is Wukong seems to find his way into every video game these days. That even has a hint of Asian inspiration or player base. There's Zephyr, who is, I believe, the West Wind or the South Wind. I can never remember. In Greek mythology, although the Zephyr in the game is basically just bird themed. Speaking of birds, the new frame Garuda is not wind based or even bird based. She is violence based. Specifically, her thing is gore. And when I first heard that, my assumption was that they showed a piece of concept art where she had these huge blades that sort of folded back against her arms. And they said that her ability set was going to revolve sort of around impaling enemies and then sort of using them as shields. And when I thought of that, I thought, okay, that's going to be interesting. This game has some ragdoll physics. I expected that you would spear an enemy on your claws, and then they would hang on you and be an actual shield that you would use to block incoming attacks, or they would provide armor as long as they were attached until they got torn up by enemy gunfire, at which point your shield would be diminished. That kind of thing. And in the meantime, but sort of before this, they'd revealed a frame whose codename was Vlad, who ended up becoming the Warframe Revenant. And Revenant was not vampire themed so much as he was sentient themed, but he was sort of themed around the idea of a frame that had been destroyed or nearly destroyed and was barely hanging on with the help of sentient energy. If you don't know what sentients are in Warframe, I'm not going to tell you. You should play the game to find out. But they're very adaptive. Revenant, the Warframe Revenant's skill set is based around changing enemies into minions and then having those minions become sort of damage traps, little fountains of energy that damage nearby enemies when they die, which can in turn convert enemies into more minions, etc., etc. They also have Revenant has a armor ability that makes it easier when enemies hit him to convert them into minions. And finally, a stupendous laser attack that really just decimates everything nearby. That's his ultimate. He also has an ability where he dashes forward and absorbs health from enemies. I haven't had a lot of luck with that one in practice, mostly because his defenses are pretty slim, generally, without that armor up. So I don't find that I'm hovering at low health, needing more, so much as if I get overwhelmed, I just die before I can do anything, and that's it. Although he's a lot more powerful once you actually get him up to rank 30, which probably goes without saying. However, I still thought there was room for a vampire-style frame. And while Garuda technically isn't a vampire, she damn near mimics one with everything she does. So, her basic ability is that she teleports to an enemy, or she dashes to an enemy, tears them apart, and all the blood is drained out of them and turned into this blood orb or soul orb, which then provides a shield, not like a force field that covers her whole body, but a actual glowing energy wall that moves in front of her wherever she goes, which lets her fight at range, taking damage as it comes. Her second ability, I want to say, sends out one of the big blade claw things on her arms and impales an enemy up from the ground. And as long as that enemy is impaled, walking near it, Garuda gains health, funnels out of the enemy and into her to replenish any of her health, which helps a lot with her third ability and her passive. Her passive is that she does more damage the less health she has. And her third ability damages herself, which boosts her damage output and also gives her back energy. Now, in practice, I think people are going to want to top off a lot, but this is a really solid way of keeping her energy at max to power her other abilities that then act in a defensive manner to protect her. And you generally are going to get more health out of the blood tree that they've been calling than you're going to spend necessarily the energy that you get from your 3 on. And then your fourth ability is not unlike some of the others I've seen, where you basically go into a mode where all of those blades in your arm are just spinning around in a vortex. They call it the blood blender. It is incredibly violent, and all of her attacks are very bloody and well capable of eviscerating enemies as they get near. And in that, especially that impaling thing and drawing health, I feel like maybe that was part of Vlad's early design, and they sort of split Vlad into the minion army frame that became Revenant, and kept the sort of vampiric life drain aspects for Garuda. So I don't know now if we're going to get a real vampire frame, because Garuda just does a really good job by herself, and she even looks a little vampiric. I bet you anything that she's going to have some sort of vampire deluxe skin before long, because I foresee her being a real fan favorite. If her armor values are good, her defensive stats in general are good, her abilities are going to really benefit from those a lot. And it's my dearest hope that she has an armor value between 300 and 500. To give you an idea, the most heavily armored frames in the game are Valkyr and Valkyr Prime, who have 600 and 700. The next one down has something like 500, and the next one down from that has 400. So if she's in that sweet spot, 300 to 400, or even up to 500, it means that when she loses her health with her third ability to give herself energy and more attack, she can hover at that lower health stat and do more damage over time without risk of suddenly just dying. Admittedly, they've said that The game at high levels is really, it's pretty easy to stay alive. I think they said in the month of September only 2.5% of missions were failed due to people dying in them, which was part of the reason they created this elite mission structure that just came out in the newest update. But Garuda is supposed to launch with Fortuna. And Fortuna is supposed to come out next month. So I need to get to playing Soul Calibur so I can get sort of maybe burnt a little out on it, and then go back into Warframe when the Fortuna stuff hits, and then I'll play that until I'm burnt out of that, and hopefully a new game will come out. That's sort of the cycle of my life, and it's probably the cycle for a lot of people. But I can't believe I was able to talk about all this stuff for 10 minutes, but I'm really, really excited for Garuda. I really want to play. I love the design is very sleek, which is what I'm looking for in any sort of visual design. I love sleekness. So I'm going to cut it off now. I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.